states on Monday. 218 infected persons have recovered. In all, more than 43,000 patients have now been discharged across the country. Lagos clocked 42 of the new infections. Plateau has 25 and 16 cases were reported in Rivers. Ebonyi State recorded 10 cases. 11 states, including the Federal Capital Territory, also recorded infections. And CDC says more than 400,000 persons have been tested since the first COVID-19 confirmed case was announced in February. Lagos Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has announced that the state has started witnessing a flattening of the COVID-19 curve. Sanwo-Olu says the state government has estimated that by August, the curve would have flattened. The government says despite this new development, the Gaussians must keep to lay down health protocols. President Muhammadu Buhari has reiterated that the country will not go back on the cancellation of the subsidy regime. The president said this is because reversal of the cancellation of the petroleum subsidy policy would generate several negative consequences. Buhari's stand was represented by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo at the opening session of a two-day first-year ministerial performance review retreat in Abuja on Monday. The president said the COVID-19 pandemic has led to a severe downturn in available funds to finance the nation's budget. He said the pandemic has also severely hampered government's capacity. Buhari said one of the steps the government took at the beginning of the crisis in March, when oil prices collapsed at the height of the global lockdown, was the deregulation of NPS. The president said the government is working towards mitigating the impact of the deregulation on the citizens. Nigerian resident doctors have begun an indefinite nationwide strike. NARD President Aliyu Sukumba says the doctors went on strike because the government has failed to meet their request made in June. The doctors took the same industrial action in June over unpaid salaries, non-payment of hazard allowances, and a shortage of personal protective equipment in hospitals, among several other reasons. The strike was suspended at the time to give federal and state governments time to fulfill outstanding demands following an appeal by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, and other stakeholders. Resident doctors made up a large percentage of physicians in Nigeria's tertiary hospitals. Organized labor in Rivers State has suspended a planned protest after an 8-point agreement was reached with the state government on Monday night. The meeting was attended by national and state representatives of the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress. Rivers State government has now agreed to meet some of the demands. All the issues would be addressed by a yet-to-be-formed tripartite committee. But parties have agreed to sign the agreement on the implementation of the new national minimum wage and consequential agreement on sealing of the state NLC secretariat, payments of check-off dues, and outstanding health workers' salaries. The state government has announced an automatic promotion for all students in the state, including automatic placement for primary 6 students in public primary schools into JSS1 of public secondary schools. The state government also announced September the 21st as the school's reopening date. Meanwhile, Governor Dapo Abiodun's Chief Press Secretary, Kunle Shomori, says early child care development and education classes comprising pupils of 3 to 5 years will not be resuming in public schools until the next phase of schools reopening. He also announced that this second phase of the reopening of schools is extended to all classes in primary and secondary schools, technical and vocational colleges, and tertiary institutions. As part of the efforts to meet the COVID-19 guidelines, school hours will now be staggered. Coming up, African stories. More than 20 elephants have died in Zimbabwe from what authorities believe to be bacterial virus. And later, international news. World Health Organization reports global COVID-19 cases surpassed 27 million.
You are watching ANN.
Somewhere in the world, every second of the day, news is happening. And of course, Nigeria is bustling with news day and night. That is why ANN doesn't sleep. Our eyes are peeled, wide open, so no story escapes our radar. We stay abreast of world events and happenings at home. We keep you up to the minute in the world of sports. We give you information to stay on top of your investments and all the hard facts you need to navigate your day. If you miss us on air, you can keep up to date on our website and on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. We are ANN, African News Network. We do news right in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Egypt has donated a variety of medical supplies to Rwanda to help protect frontline responders in the fight against COVID-19. The $145,000 1.5-ton equipment arrived in Kigali on Monday.
The equipment includes face masks, overalls, aprons, shoes and other equipment that can protect doctors from contracting COVID-19. The Ministry of Health says the equipment will be used to raise the capacity of COVID-19 isolation and treatment centers, mostly those in rural areas. Rwanda's Minister of Health, Dr. Daniel Ngamije, says the two countries are in talks on different health-related projects.
Regarding
the health sector, we have a good partnership. You can see the donated equipment for us. We even partner in other things. For example, we are in discussions with an institution that will help us with treating heart complications. Talks have gone far. Soon we will sign the contract. We also share research, with our researchers going to Egypt and theirs come to Rwanda. So we have a good health partnership. The ambassador of Egypt to Rwanda, Ahmed Al-Ansari, says increased partnership is needed on the African continent in the fight against the coronavirus.
I think I have to say that these are very testing times for the world, and it's time to show and demonstrate our solidarity, particularly as Africans, and this is basically why we decided to chip in and try to lend our support to our brothers and sisters in Rwanda.
The Director General of Africa at the Rwanda Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Shakira Umutoni Kazimbaya, says relations between Rwanda and Egypt are reflected in different sectors.
Normally, we work together on different things, including aviation, military cooperation, amongst other things, which means that we have a lot that links us. The relationship goes beyond the two countries and goes to the African Union, where countries find solutions for common problems on the continent.
The Arab Republic of Egypt recently donated $2 million to the African Union COVID-19 Response Fund, which was established to help the continent combat the COVID-19 pandemic and its effects.
Statistics South Africa says the country's consumer price index rose by 1 full percentage point to 3.2% in July, up from 2.2% in June. That is the biggest monthly rise since February 2016, when the rate was 1.4%. Statistics South Africa says the monthly move in July was driven largely by fuel prices and municipal tariffs. Correspondent Angela Coppola has the details.
Under the hard lockdown, the consumer inflation rate in May declined to a 15-year low of 2.1%. It recovered marginally since then.
It's really a cost-push kind of inflation. It's not driven by demand. As we know from an economic point of view, the economy is in deep recession, unemployment is rising. So there's just no demand in the economy to pull inflation up.
If you're sitting with 2 and 3% inflation, that's your cost of living. Now, what are wages doing in this environment? Well, first, the wages that are being retained are not running ahead at 2 and 3%. I think people who are hanging on to jobs are very grateful for zero wage increases. So there's going to be a small decline in your real earnings because of that 2 or 3% inflation effect.
With a muted inflation rate, the eyes of consumers and businesses now turns to the country's Reserve Bank, whose mandate is to manage the country's inflation rate.
So what they are worried about is not so much what is the number we're seeing now, but what's the number coming at us. And if we take the Reserve Bank's projections on inflation, they don't look aggressive. They don't establish any cause for real concern. And the talk in markets, or what markets are pointing to, is an interest rate increase towards the second half of next year.
The central bank has aggressively cut rates by 300 basis points since March, but stimulus will come from elsewhere, like the credit guarantee scheme.
In the 200 billion credit guarantee scheme, only about 15 billion has been dispersed, which means we still have a lot of money that is not dispersed. So it's still in the system and yet to come.
The consensus is that economic growth in South Africa is going to be lackluster, and there's no prospect of any significant growth in the foreseeable future, at least for the next year.
So the delay in reforms will also going to delay investment. So the next 18 months, yes, you are going to see a rebound from largely because of best effects, but it's not going to be driven by brownfield investment that are going to actually lift South Africa's growth.
Elephants have been dying mysteriously in Zimbabwe. There are more than 22 fatalities among the elephants' population in the Hongwa National Park and Victoria Falls. Zimbabwe National Parks and Wildlife Management Authority suspects bacterial infection, possibly from eating poisonous plants, could be responsible for the deaths. Correspondent Faria Nwakutuya has the story.
An aerial survey done in the area between the Hwange National Park and Victoria Falls found more dead elephants. Tests on the carcasses are currently underway.
The preliminary investigations, preliminary results that we have discovered, there's suspicion that there's a bacteria which has caused the death of our elephants. These things, they normally happen during this time of the year because our elephants are overpopulated. They tend to overgraze or overeat their vegetation. And because if you look at the mortality, the animals which are succumbing, most of them they are young, which in some cases they can't reach for branches up there.
There are also suggestions the animals' resilience may have been compromised due to the strain and stress of having to travel further to find water. The Parks and Wildlife Management Authority had planned a mass translocation of wildlife from arid, dry regions into areas that have more abundant water sources. But all that has been put on hold by the COVID-19 crisis. The failure to move those animals has stoked fears that there could be more fatalities. And it's not just elephants that are in danger. Rising temperatures will dry the land even more in the coming summer months, intensifying the fight for survival.
You know, we have received more than 1,000 distress calls from communities this year alone. And of those 1,000, we have lost 50 lives due to human-wildlife conflict. And 50% of that was human-elephant conflict, which means elephant is becoming the biggest problem because communities will be trying to scare away these animals from their fields, from their small gardens, and generally they are competing for water. And when they compete for water, naturally people will die.
Authorities say they require additional funds to manage the excessive elephant population. They are, however, unlikely to get that from their primary source of revenue, tourism, which is reeling from the COVID-19 crisis. Zimbabwe has previously lobbied to be allowed to export some of its elephants and to trade in ivory to raise funds for conservation.
When we return, international news. World Health Organization reports global COVID-19 cases surpassed 27 million. Death toll exceeds 880,000. And in sport, 4 Bundesliga stars set to join Super Eagles team.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. The World Health Organization has reported on Monday global confirmed cases of COVID-19 have topped 27 million and the death toll has exceeded 880,000. The WHO Coronavirus Disease Dashboard says worldwide total number of COVID-19 confirmed cases has reached 27,032,617. The United States, India and Brazil are the most affected countries in confirmed cases. The U.S. has reported more than 6 million confirmed cases, while India and Brazil each have more than 4 million confirmed cases. The U.S. still tops the world in number of deaths as it has reported nearly 188,000 fatalities. Brazil has the second highest number of deaths with 126,000. India is third with nearly 72,000 deaths. Trailing the three in terms of confirmed cases are Russia with more than 1 million cases, Peru with nearly 700,000 cases. Following those are Colombia, South Africa, Mexico, Spain and Argentina. WHO says the Americans remain the most affected region by the virus. More than 14 million cases and nearly 500,000 deaths have been reported in the region. Southeast Asia follows with nearly 5 million cases and Europe has reported 4.5 million infections. The top three countries in the Western Pacific region are the Philippines, Japan and the Republic of Korea. While the coronavirus pandemic appears to be flattening in many countries, a fear of resurgence has forced authorities to keep restrictions in place. This is forcing many small businesses to shift their business focus, as in the case of the Caracas family shop. Correspondent Mary Trini has the story.
This family-run flower shop has provided the income to feed and clothe Yuritza Morales and her family of 4 for 35 years. Until March, that is, when the quarantine forced her to close. A month later, the quarantine was still enforced, but Morales found a way to open the shop.
We had to modify the products we used to sell. We have added food in order to keep selling what we have always sold: flowers, chocolates, and stuffed animals. We can't stay open if we don't sell any food.
Since food stores are considered essential, Morales is selling eggs, crackers, and coffee in addition to flowers. And she says she has found a silver lining amid the hardships.
I think with the pandemic, people are paying attention to details and special dates. And because they can't go out, they're sending flowers and stuffed animals.
Pharmacies and food markets are the only businesses in Venezuela that have been allowed to consistently remain open.
For the other businesses, Venezuela has tried multiple strategies while it fights the COVID-19 pandemic. At first, a total quarantine, then a 1 week on, 1 week off system for businesses with staggered hours of operations.
The National Council of Commerce and Services in Venezuela, Consecomercio, says the 1 week on, 1 week off plan is not enough. The council warns if stores are not allowed to open continuously, millions of jobs will be at risk.
The main employer in Venezuela is the commerce and service sector, and we are talking about 50% of all decent jobs in Venezuela. They are all at risk at this moment.
Shops across the country are adapting in order to stay open. This Caracas store used to sell jewelry and purses. 2 months later, it downsized the staff, stocked packaged food and drinks, and reopened its stores.
We used to earn the basic salary plus commissions. Now it's less, and also with fewer personnel. We assumed responsibilities from jobs that were cut, but at least we still keep working.
As COVID-19 cases continue to rise in Venezuela, customers, merchants, and the government are all struggling to see through the same window and strike the balance protecting people from the virus without compromising the health of the economy.
Many American colleges and universities are switching to remote learning for the fall semester as college campuses in many states report new coronavirus cases. Now, COVID-19 cluster fears are growing as new semester begins across the country. Correspondent Hendrik Sibrandi reports from Boulder, Colorado.
Move-in day at the University of Colorado Boulder. 7,500 freshman students with parents in tow lug their worldly possessions into dormitories in advance of what for many will be their first extended time away from home.
I think they've set it up really great. Due to the circumstance, it's the best we can do.
It will be an unusual year. Take the students' very first stop on campus. They lined up to provide proof of a negative COVID-19 test. Those without were directed to get one.
I think it's a big overreaction for sure. I don't like it one bit. I think we're all going to be fine and that this is just craziness. To the right.
But CU officials say they take the threat of coronavirus very seriously and have plotted for months how to make the fall semester both safe and productive.
I can't even begin to tell you how many hours and surveys and different things that we've been working with our scientists, with our experts, our educational experts, our facilities experts to make sure that this is going to be a safe environment for everybody.
Half of the school's classes will be held online. The rest will be conducted, at least in part, in person, with fewer students than normal, all spaced apart.
I thought from the beginning that they'd do a good job, but yeah, there was definitely some hesitation at first.
As you might imagine, there have been tons of family discussions this summer centering around one question. Is it even wise for students to be here?
It's obviously a little scary and we're not exactly sure what to expect.
Student gatherings have contributed to more than 8,000 positive cases at U.S. colleges and universities so far, including more than 1,000 at the University of Alabama. That's prompted some schools to shift even more of their learning online. CU reports 15 cases since classes resumed here.
What do we do?
Some school employees believe a significant outbreak is inevitable and that safeguards against the virus still fall short.
They have refused to give any criteria for what would trigger a campus or system-wide move to remote.
I think it's going to kind of explode in the next 3 or 4 months.
Still, as a member of the class of 2020, Max Perry says he wants to be here.
We're kind of a special generation, having dealt with 9/11 when we were born and then all kinds of world changes after that, and now we're dealing with this, and just we have dealt with so much, and I think being part of this class is a really special thing.
Go Bucks! The college experience at CU dorms, where occupancy has been reduced for safety reasons, will be different.
I just like social interaction and getting together with friends, and I know a lot of that's going to be taken away this semester.
But she's plunging ahead in what promises to be a unique and challenging experience on campuses, like everywhere else.
Up next, sports. 4 Bundesliga stars set to join Super Eagles. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News and Sport. 4 new defenders from the German Bundesliga, Henry Akpoguma, Felix Agu, Felix Udokai, and Jordan Torunahia of Nigeria descent are set to join the Nigeria senior national team next month when the Super Eagles face Ivory Coast and Tunisia in international friendlies. Officials say this will bring more competition to the defense and help it to be more formidable. Akpoguma represented Germany from under 16 to under 21 level. He also captained the German under 20 side at the 2015 under 20 World Cup. He is yet to join the Nigerian setup despite opening the door to a switch since 2018. Agu, Udokai and Turaniha have also represented Germany at junior levels. Serena Williams has advanced to her 12th. And that is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, ANNAfrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.